My fiancé is a stuffy, serious traditionalist. Luckily, my online boyfriend is a total dreamboat. After yet another formal meeting with my fiancé, I vented to my online guy. Babe, I just got tortured by the patriarch again. I need cuddles to feel better. Quick, put on that chest chain I bought you. I need some eye candy to recover. As I was typing, I accidentally hit the video call button. A second later, my fiancé appeared on the screen, shirtless, with that exact same chest chain around his chest. I went silent. Babe, I miss you. I can't stand being surrounded by a bunch of old guys for toasts. I just want to go home and call you. I had just managed to escape the crowd and was hiding in a corner eating when I got the message from my online boyfriend. A wave of sweetness washed over me, and even the ache in my heels seemed to fade a little. I typed back quickly. Babe, I miss you too. Send me a couple of pics, please. No old ones, I want a fresh shot. Don't you dare be lazy. He seemed to hesitate. Babe, I'm not home yet. I didn't care. I desperately needed something exciting to recharge my batteries. This stupid banquet was exhausting. Isn't there a lounge or something? Just say you have to use the restroom and find an empty room to take a picture. You can't even do this one little thing for me? Babe, you've changed. Did a single night out make you stop loving me? I'm so sad now. Pout. Sure enough, as soon as I sent that, he immediately agreed. Humming a little tune, I ate my cake and waited happily for my dreamboats of pics. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my fiancé, Julian Thorne, also break away from the crowd. He stood tall and straight, his dark suit clinging to a lean waist. Even after drinking quite a bit, his steps were steady, and he maintained an air of cool self-control. I rolled my eyes. Such a poser. Julian was my fiancé, at least in name. We both had our own partners and had agreed to dissolve the engagement as soon as our family's business deal was over. In the meantime, we had to pretend to be a stable, loving couple at public events. I was his date tonight. My initial impression of Julian had actually been pretty good. He was a bit serious, but overall, he was a gentleman. Until one time, when I accidentally slipped and stumbled into him. His brow immediately furrowed. He took half a step back and told me in a low, grave voice, Miss Vance, please have some decorum. I couldn't believe I was hearing a line like that in the 21st century. Decorum my ass. I'll admit he's handsome, but I just slipped. It's not like I was intentionally throwing myself at him. My online boyfriend is a million times better than him, okay? Abs, pecs, collarbones, whatever he had, he'd show me anytime, anywhere. I could even request specific poses. He was so generous. Compared to him, Julian was a total joke. After finishing a whole slice of cake, I felt some of my energy return. There was still no sign of life from my online boyfriend. I gathered the hem of my dress and got up, planning to find a lounge to hide in. It was my first time here, so I wasn't familiar with the layout. I made a few wrong turns before I finally found a private room. Just as I was about to push the door open, it was pulled open from the inside. Caught off guard, I stumbled forward, instinctively grabbing onto something to steady myself. Then I looked up and saw Julian's handsome face, his brows creased into a deep frown. And my hand was pressed right against his chest. His face was cold as he brushed my hand away, his voice indifferent. Miss Vance, you should really watch where you're going. Seriously. He doesn't think I did that on purpose, does he? How can a man be so arrogant and so ridiculously stuffy? I pulled my hand back, glanced dismissively at his chest, and smiled. You know, Mr. Thorne, you should really hit the gym more often when you're not working. Your body has nothing on my boyfriend's. Julian's expression didn't change in the slightest. His dark eyes were cold as he looked down at me. That's none of your concern, Miss Vance. I ignored him and walked straight to the sofa in the lounge. Let me know when you're leaving. Otherwise, don't bother me. Get out and close the door. Just as Julian left, my online boyfriend sent the pics. Babe, fresh off the camera. Are you satisfied? Whenever you want to see, just ask. This is for your eyes only. My online guy really is the best. That ice-cold poser Julian can go take a hike. I opened the photos and zoomed in to appreciate each one. In the picture, the man's white shirt was unbuttoned and open, revealing a hint of his waistline, perfectly defined 8-pack abs, and chiseled muscles. I had to admit, my online boyfriend's physique was absolutely flawless. Satisfied. So satisfied. Next time, I want to touch them in person. And I'm going to play hide and seek in your abs and kiss you all over. My online boyfriend went back to being busy, and I stayed in the lounge, admiring the photos for a long time. However, the more I looked, the more familiar the background seemed. Why did the backdrop of his pics look so much like the lounge I was in right now? I compared them closely, and they were, in fact, identical. I thought about Julian leaving this very room just a moment ago. Could my online boyfriend be Julian? The thought barely had time to form before I slapped it away. No way. Absolutely impossible. How could that old-fashioned prude be my sweet, doting babe? Besides, with Julian's personality, there's no way he would abandon a room full of business partners to run off to a lounge and take pics for me. All these lounges probably have the same decor. It must be a coincidence. I told myself not to freak out. The party ended an hour later. Julian's assistant called and told me it was time to go. The second I got in the car, I kicked off my high heels. Julian, who had been resting with his eyes closed, glanced over at the sound, his brow twitching almost imperceptibly. Uptight jerk. He probably thought I wasn't being ladylike enough. What century is he living in? Sometimes I think he's still stuck in the Victorian era. I went on the offensive. What are you looking at? Never seen a beautiful woman take her shoes off? Julian didn't say anything. He just closed his eyes again. I rolled my eyes. The car fell silent, filled only with the faint scent of alcohol. Bored, I pulled out my phone and sent a few messages to my online boyfriend. He didn't reply, so he must still be busy. Meanwhile, the guy next to me, Julian, had a phone screen that kept lighting up. Mr. CEO is certainly a busy man. I glanced over. Julian was sitting perfectly upright, his spine ramrod straight even as he rested. His tie was knotted impeccably, not loosened in the slightest. He had a whole "don't come near me" vibe going on. I suddenly became very curious about what kind of woman could possibly tolerate being with him. A guy as rigid as him must be incredibly boring in bed, right? Thank God I don't have to marry him. That weekend, my best friend Maya and I had plans to see a romance movie. I never expected to run into Julian at the theater. He was dressed casually today, holding a bucket of popcorn, and looked a lot younger. Maya nudged me. Look, your Victorian-era fiancé watches movies too. I glanced at the young woman beside him. Yeah, probably taking his little sister. Maya smiled. You know, he actually looks pretty good when he's not in a suit. You sure you don't want to reconsider? I shrugged nonchalantly. Please. He's still an old-fashioned relic on the inside. Sometimes I wonder if his family has a time machine that goes straight to some feudal dynasty. One time, I had dinner with Julian at his family's estate, and the number of rules was insane. There were seating arrangements, rules for posture, dining etiquette, and even specific ways to hold a teacup. I almost thought I'd time traveled. It was terrifying. Sure, the Thorne family was powerful, and any family that married into it would reap huge benefits. But that was a blessing I just couldn't handle. I much preferred someone like my online boyfriend. No stuffy rules. Even if I asked him to take his clothes off for pics on a whim, he wouldn't call me frivolous. And he would never, ever tell me to have some decorum. After getting our tickets, I was planning to pretend I hadn't seen them and just slip away, but his sister, Haley, spotted me first. Chloe. You're here to see a movie too? The girl was so enthusiastic, insisting we watch together and even taking it upon herself to swap our seats. In the end, I was sitting next to Julian. I never thought that in my lifetime, I'd have the opportunity to sit next to Julian and watch other people make out. On the screen, the main characters were sharing a passionate kiss after a misunderstanding, the scene beautiful and the music moving. I snuck a peek at the man beside me. In the flickering light of the screen, Julian's expression was as calm as if he were watching the financial news. Boring. So incredibly boring. I really couldn't take it. The moment the movie ended, I grabbed Maya and bolted, afraid I'd get contaminated by his 19th century vibes. Maya had to leave early, so I went back to my car alone. My phone started buzzing non-stop. My online boyfriend had suddenly sent dozens of messages. I thought it was an emergency, but when I opened them, it was just a flood of photos. All sorts of pics, peck pics, and even a just out of the shower shot where he was only wearing a towel. All of them were new. I wiped the drool from my mouth and started typing furiously. Babe, are you trying to kill me? His status showed typing. For a long time before he finally sent a single question. Babe, do you like them? Did he even need to ask? I looked them over again and again, incredibly satisfied. But now wasn't the time for that. Although he'd always been generous with the thirst traps, he usually only sent them when I asked. This was the first time he'd ever just dumped a whole gallery on me like this. What had gotten into him? After thinking for a moment, I typed. Of course I like them. Babe, did something happen? You have to tell me what's on your mind. Don't carry it all by yourself, you'll make me worry. Hug. It took a while for him to reply. It's nothing, babe. I just suddenly miss you a lot. I want to see you, hold you, kiss you. I'm so jealous of other people who can just be in a relationship out in the open, holding hands and hugging. Can we meet in person? Phew. I thought it was something serious. So he just wanted to meet in real life. Come to think of it, we'd been talking for over 6 months now. We met on an app that used big data to match us as compatible friends. I started it just for fun, but I never expected to actually develop real feelings. It was pretty amazing. Meeting up wasn't a bad idea at all. I replied. Of course we can. Babe, I've been wanting to meet you for ages. I want to explore every inch of you and find out where you've hidden my heart, otherwise why can't I stop thinking about you? He. He replied instantly, as if he was afraid I'd change my mind. Okay. For the next few days, I was completely absorbed in the excitement and anticipation of finally meeting my online boyfriend. I even got his shipping address and bought him a chest chain. On the day we meet, I'm going to see him wear it with my own eyes and then ravage him. I got excited just thinking about it. On Tuesday night, I had to accompany Julian to another dinner party. I linked my arm through his, a perfect, polite smile plastered on my face as we greeted the various guests. Julian seemed to be in a good mood too. He leaned over and said in his steady voice, "You can go rest for a bit if you're tired." I was a little surprised. "Why so considerate today, Mr. Thorne? Did you win the lottery?" His expression remained unchanged. "Fine, don't rest then." When it was over, Julian walked me to the car. His voice, carried by the rustling wind, drifted into the vehicle. "Miss Vance, our family's business deal is nearly complete. I'll handle the dissolution of our engagement. Thank you for your trouble during this time. I've prepared a small gift for you. Someone will deliver it to your house in a couple of days. I hope you'll accept it." My eyes lit up. This was like getting 2 pieces of good news at once. I decided to ignore his stuffy tone and happily extended my hand. "Mr. Thorne, it's been a pleasure." Julian glanced down, his eyes sweeping over my hand. Instead of shaking it, he placed a gift box in my palm. It was a pair of earrings from the auction earlier. "A pleasure," he said. What's his deal? Did he really think I was dying to shake his hand? I was just being polite, okay? Back home, I collapsed onto the sofa. I pulled out my phone and messaged my online boyfriend. Babe. I was tortured by the uptight patriarch again today. I need cuddles to feel better. I seriously can't take it anymore. Why is a relic from the 19th century in my life and not in a museum? I feel like my soul is being suffocated. Quick, put on that chest chain I bought you. I can't wait anymore. I need to see it now. Give my eyes something beautiful to look at, babe. He replied with a quick okay and then went quiet, probably to change. My online boyfriend was so obedient. My heart just melted. I was about to open my photo album to send him some pose ideas when my hand slipped, and I hit the video call button. I tried to cancel, but my phone fell out of my hand. And he picked up. Against a warm, yellow-lit background, Julian was shirtless, the delicate, diamond-studded chest chain I'd bought him hanging across his pecs. As he moved, the chain swayed, catching the light and making the groove between his chest muscles look even deeper. Julian's lips moved, and a slightly hoarse voice came through the speaker. Babe, do you like it? Silence. Deafening silence. Oh my God. Oh. My. God. The sky was falling. The earth was cracking open. The fossil I dug up from the 19th century had come to life. My online dreamboat was the stuffy traditionalist himself. The uptight prude had 2 different messaging accounts. Could life get any more dramatic? I was frozen to the spot, unable to say a word. On the other end, Julian seemed a little confused. What's wrong, babe? You can turn off your camera if you don't want to show your face. I'll keep mine on so you can look at me. I blinked, then cautiously reached out a hand and turned off my camera. On the screen, Julian's expression was as cool as ever, but his dark eyes seemed a little hazy. I tested the waters. Babe? A small smile touched his lips. Babe. How do you want me to pose for you? I squeezed my eyes shut. It was real. For a split second, I wished it was all just an AI deepfake. My brain was too jumbled to appreciate the view. I ended up taking a few screenshots and making up an excuse to hang up. Lying on my bed, I felt more shocked than if Mars had just crashed into Earth. The guy who was always calling me babe, who would fulfill my every request, was actually my priggish fiancé who told me to have some decorum. Seriously, universe? Is this some kind of joke? But, on the other hand, Julian's face and body were undeniably incredible. If he was my online boyfriend, maybe it wasn't so hard to accept. It was even convenient. I wouldn't even have to deal with introducing him to my parents. Remembering how the chest chain looked on him. It was even sexier than the pictures on the model. As I was lost in thought, a message from Julian came through. Babe, you didn't like it? Did I do something wrong? Just tell me how you want me to pose. I'll do anything. Or, are you not satisfied with my looks? I stared at the messages, Julian's prim and proper face popping into my head, and I couldn't help but laugh out loud. What was I so embarrassed about? Shouldn't Julian be the one who's mortified? He acts so straight-laced and formal in public, but behind the scenes, he's wearing chest chains. What happened to decorum now? Thinking of this, a wicked idea started to form. What would Julian's face look like if he knew that the person he'd been calling babe every day was me? I picked up my phone and replied. Of course not. Babe, you're the most handsome man in the world. And your body is amazing. Those male celebrities have nothing on you. I loved it. I was just a little shy. Don't overthink it, babe. I love you so much. I replied in my usual tone, and Julian didn't suspect a thing. The next day, I was trying to think of an excuse to ask Julian out when he beat me to it, saying we needed to talk. I chose a beautiful open-air restaurant with a great atmosphere, surrounded by a lake on 3 sides, elegant and romantic. I even arrived a little early. At 7 o'clock sharp, Julian walked in. He was in the same impeccably tailored dark suit, tie knotted perfectly at his collar, his expression indifferent, his stride confident. But looking at him now, I felt completely different. Even his stuffiness seemed endearing. I watched him with a smile as he sat down, my voice uncharacteristically soft. "You're here." Julian looked at me with a hint of surprise but simply gave a slight nod. I propped my chin on my hand. "What did you want to talk about? Is there any progress on dissolving the engagement?" Julian folded his hands on the table, his gaze pausing for a moment before his voice dropped low. "I apologize. There's been an unexpected issue with the contract. It might delay things for a while longer. You can name any conditions you want, and I will compensate you accordingly." With me throwing a wrench in the works, of course he wasn't going to get out of this engagement so easily. I swirled the wine in my glass and raised an eyebrow. "Actually, we don't necessarily have to dissolve the engagement." Julian's brows instinctively furrowed, and his gaze turned colder. "What are you implying, Miss Vance?" Seeing him like this only improved my mood. "Exactly what I said. I've been thinking about it the past few days. Why don't we just not dissolve the engagement and get married instead?" As the words left my mouth, Julian's eyes went completely frigid. "You're backing out of our agreement?" I shrugged. "Not really. Did we ever sign a contract?" Julian's sharp gaze swept over me, his voice deeper and more stern than before. "Miss Vance, I hope you understand that a marriage alliance is not a game. I've mentioned to you before that I have a long-term girlfriend, and I have no intention of breaking up with her. And based on our time together, you and I are not a good match. We shouldn't force this." I slowly cut into my steak, the knife and fork making a crisp sound against the porcelain plate. I looked up and smiled at him. "People change, Mr. Thorne. I used to think you were stuffy and boring, but lately, I've discovered you have a certain charm." I paused intentionally. "Especially your physique. It's exceptionally well maintained." Julian's deep eyes stared at me. He was silent for a few seconds before speaking. "Miss Vance, please have some decorum." There it was again. I almost burst out laughing and had to take a sip of wine to compose myself. I let out a soft chuckle. "Decorum? Mr. Thorne, telling your own fiancé to have decorum seems a little distant, don't you think? We're going to be sharing a bed one day." Julian's patience had clearly reached its limit. His jaw tightened, and his tone was colder than I'd ever heard it. "Miss Vance, I was under the impression we had reached a consensus. This alliance was merely a matter of convenience. I have no feelings for you beyond our business arrangement, and I will never marry you." Julian left without even finishing his meal. Watching his retreating back, I finally couldn't hold it in anymore and burst out laughing. This was so much fun. I can't believe I'm only just now discovering how entertaining it is to tease the ever so serious Julian Thorne. I was in a great mood for the next few days. On one hand, I was periodically popping up to harass my fiancé, Julian. "Mr. Thorne, I saw you out today. You look so sexy and intense in a suit. I heard there's a rose garden behind the Thorne family estate. When will you take me to see it? Are you free for dinner sometime? We should see each other more often to cultivate our relationship." Why so cold? Are you really going to ignore me? No matter how many messages I sent, Julian completely ignored me. He even blocked me several times, and I had to ask his mother to get him to add me back. On the other hand, I pretended nothing had happened and continued my lovey-dovey chats with my online boyfriend, Julian. "Babe, I'm under so much pressure lately. My family is pushing me hard to get married, to that stuffy traditionalist. When will your engagement be dissolved? I only want to marry you, babe. I want to fly into your arms right now." Lately, he'd been replying very quickly. "Babe, just wait for me. I'll dissolve the engagement very soon. I'm sorry you're going through this, babe. It's my fault for not handling it better. Trust me, I will never let you marry someone you don't like." I almost laughed out loud when I read that. Okay, babe. I'll wait for you. I won't marry anyone but you. Don't forget our date to finally meet this Saturday night. Babe, I'm going to wear my prettiest dress to see you. Putting my phone down, I couldn't help but roll around on my bed with glee. Saturday, please hurry up and get here. I had originally planned to give Julian a huge surprise on Saturday, but on Friday, I changed my mind. Using the dissolution of the engagement as bait, I lured Julian to a restaurant. That evening, I dressed up carefully, choosing a deep V-neck, high slit gown in wine red, paired with silver, diamond-dusted stiletto heels. I sat at the table with the best view, waiting for Julian to arrive. He was punctual as always, dressed in an impeccable suit. When he saw me, his expression was completely unruffled, and his tone was distant. Miss Vance, I hope you're serious about discussing the dissolution of the engagement today. A smile played on my lips, my voice soft. Of course I'm willing. The question is, are you? Julian's features relaxed slightly. Of course. Name your terms. I nodded and swirled my wine glass. My only condition is that you have dinner with me tonight. Julian seemed taken aback, as if he hadn't expected it to be so easy. Then he raised his own glass and gently clinked it against mine. I hope you'll keep your word, Miss Vance. Julian was silent while he ate, barely speaking. I glanced at him a couple of times, then quietly took out my phone and messaged his online account. Babe, what are you doing? I got contaminated by that old fossil again today. I need cuddles. Did you get the new chest chain I sent you? Quick, put it on and let me see. Julian's screen lit up. He glanced at his phone, his expression unchanging, but I quickly received a reply. Can it wait a little while, babe? I'm out having dinner. I pounced on the key detail. Who are you having dinner with? Is it your fiancé? Babe, are you getting married? Are we breaking up? It's okay, babe. I understand. Julian looked up, his eyes meeting my smiling gaze. Busy? I asked. Julian paused, then stood up. I'm going to the restroom. I smiled and nodded, watching him disappear around the corner. Of course, he wasn't going to the restroom. The restaurant I'd chosen was owned by his company, Thorn Industries, and one he frequented. This floor had a special private suite reserved exclusively for him, which he sometimes used for gatherings with friends. Not long after Julian left, I received his message. Babe, don't overthink things. I'm just with her to discuss dissolving the engagement. We are not breaking up. Give me a minute, I'll take the picture now. I checked the time. It was about right. I stood up and headed toward the private suite. Standing in front of the keypad lock, I thought for a moment, then raised my hand and entered my own birthday. The lock clicked open. I gently pushed the door open. The first thing I saw was a traditional ink wash screen. Behind the screen, I could see the faint movement of a figure. I walked closer, the soft carpet swallowing the sound of my heels. Rounding the screen, I saw Julian with his back to me, head slightly bowed as he adjusted the diamond-studded chest chain. The warm light fell on his broad shoulders. The cool glint of the chain against the warmth of his skin created a breathtaking contrast of forbidden sensuality. A small smile curved my lips. I took out my phone and snapped a picture of his back. The click of the shutter was unnervingly loud in the quiet room. Julian froze for a second before spinning around, his eyes wide with shock. But Mr. CEO was, after all, a man who'd seen it all. He quickly recovered, grabbing his suit jacket and throwing it over his shoulders. His face was ice, his gaze even colder. Chloe, what is the meaning of this? I completely ignored his murderous stare, thinking only that the chest chain paired with a half-open suit was an even better look. I walked forward and lightly tapped a finger on his chest, right where the chain lay. The instant I touched him, Julian grabbed my hand. Miss Vance. I cut him off. I'm listening. Let me guess. Are you going to tell me to have some decorum, or are you going to call me babe? The fingers gripping my wrist went rigid. I smiled, smoothly pulling my hand from his grasp and placing it on his waist. You have a great body, babe. Beneath my warm touch, the skin of his waist instantly tensed. Julian's Adam's apple bobbed. His eyes were filled with disbelief. That gaze, usually as still as a deep well, was now a raging storm. You. I waited for a long time, but he never finished his sentence, as if he'd completely lost his usual composure. I leaned in closer, my fingers tracing patterns on the diamonds of his chest chain. Me what? You were so affectionate online, babe. Why so distant now that we've finally met? Julian still didn't speak, just stared at me without blinking. I smiled again and moved closer, my fingers unconsciously stroking his waist. Didn't you say you'd do anything for me? Right now, I want to see you with my own eyes and touch you with my own hands. Is that okay? Julian grabbed my hand, his grip tight. The emotion in his eyes was unreadable, and his voice was incredibly hoarse. Chloe, are you having fun? Julian shoved me away, turned his back to quickly button up his shirt, and walked out the door. Julian was angry. He went abroad on a business trip just to avoid me. I couldn't see him. He wouldn't answer messages on his main account. So, I switched to his alt. Babe, can you send me the pictures from the other day? Did you bring the chest chain with you on your business trip? I want to see you wearing it with a suit. So intense and sexy. I love it. Half a day went by with no reply. I thought my message had vanished into the ether, but that night, he sent a reply. Chloe, have you no shame? I almost snorted. After all the things he'd shown me? After I'd already touched him? And he's asking this now? I typed back immediately. I want to see, babe. Show me. And then, he ignored me again. For days, he was cold and distant. And I wasn't getting any new pictures. So boring. I started to wonder if I had taken things too far. After all, Julian, despite his secret wild side, was fundamentally a traditionalist. Just as I was considering buying a plane ticket to chase him overseas, I got a message on my main account from Julian's assistant. He told me Julian was back in the country. I got the message during the day. That night, I got a call. His assistant said Julian had too much to drink at a work dinner and asked if I could go pick him up. When I arrived at the private club, Julian was sitting alone on the sofa in a private room. His head was tilted back slightly, eyes closed, back straight, tie still knotted perfectly at his neck. If it weren't for the unnatural flush on his face, no one would have thought he was drunk. His discipline was truly ingrained in his bones. I moved closer and leaned down, whispering in his ear. Babe, want to come home with me? In the dim corner, Julian's eyes opened. Those eyes, usually so clear and calm, were now veiled with a layer of mist. He stared at me for a moment, then shifted away. It was a small movement, but the rejection was clear. Even his tone was cold. What are you doing here? I smiled and shifted closer to him, making sure we maintained an intimate distance. I'm here to pick up my husband and take him home. Julian stared at me. We're not married yet. I smoothly corrected myself. Then I'm here to pick up my fiancé. Fiancé, ready to go? Or would you rather we dissolve the engagement? The moment I said dissolve the engagement, Julian's eyelashes fluttered. But he still didn't speak. I knew he was still angry. Angry that I'd recognized him on the video call but pretended not to know. Angry that I'd used the engagement to deliberately tease him. Knowing I wasn't entirely in the right, I started to explain. I wasn't trying to trick you. I was just curious. I was surprised to see you had such a relaxed side. I always thought you were a very serious, solemn person. The contrast was surprising and delightful, and it made me want to explore more. Honestly, when I found out you were my online boyfriend, I was really happy. The person I liked turning out to be my arranged fiancé. That's a good thing for me. If you feel like I played you and you want to break up, I'll accept that. Julian, I will completely respect your decision on this. After I finished, I watched his expression carefully. Then, I deliberately pulled away. I silently counted in my head. Before I even got to 3, Julian yanked me into his lap. I was caught off guard, and my hand landed on his chest. Beneath my fingers, besides the searing heat of his skin, I felt the cool, hard touch of something else. I raised an eyebrow. Julian's dark eyes were hidden in the shadows as he stared at me, his voice hoarse. Chloe, you're seducing me again. I smiled and leaned in, my nose brushing against his. So, are you taking the bait? The words had barely left my lips when Julian's mouth crashed down on mine, his kiss forcefully parting my teeth. This kiss was a world away from his usual reserved, straight-laced image. It was full of aggression and a desire that had lost all control. He held me tight, and I could barely breathe. But I still had the presence of mind to loosen his tie and unbutton his shirt. I slipped my hand inside and, sure enough, felt a thin chain. I pulled back slightly, our foreheads touching. Did you wear this for me? He didn't answer. My hand roamed over his waist, the curve of my lips growing wider. Aren't you mad at me? Why are you still wearing this? Julian's eyes were hazy, but he still didn't speak. His hot palm held me firmly by the small of my back, pulling me tight against him. He moved to kiss me again, but I cupped his chin and turned my head slightly. I laughed softly. No answer, no kiss. I want to hear it. Julian's gaze on me was deep, his eyes like bottomless whirlpools pulling me in. His voice was a low rasp. Because I took the bait. That one sentence made both of our rational minds shatter. We clung to each other, kissing desperately. The last shred of my consciousness made me push him away. Panting, I extended an invitation. I have a huge apartment nearby. Want to come home with me? The moment the door closed, Julian pinned me against the entryway wall. The lights were off. Only the neon glow of the city filtered through the windows, painting the floor. He took my hand and guided it to his chest, tracing the path of the chain through his shirt. The cool diamonds were a stark contrast to his warm skin. Under my palm, I could feel the powerful, steady beat of his heart. He looked down, hiding all emotion in the depths of his eyes. Babe, want to try taking it off yourself? I wrapped my arms around his neck and laughed. Then I leaned close to his ear, my breath a warm whisper. Mr. Thorne, how come you're not telling me to have some decorum now? Julian's deep eyes locked onto mine. The next second, the world spun. He swept me into his arms and carried me toward the bedroom. Chloe, you started this. Now you have to see it through. That sounded just like Julian. It was a very long night. My consciousness drifted on waves of pleasure, peak after peak pushing me forward as I drowned in an endless ocean. That night, I truly got to know Julian Thorne. Discipline and wildness, restraint and abandon, traditional and sensual, all of it intertwined within him. In the end, it all came together in a strangely harmonious way. Our online dating phase was over. Julian and I started dating openly. My best friend, Maya, came back from a business trip to a whole new world. She declared she was going to try online dating too and asked me for a tutorial. Then she asked me secretly. Seriously, what's it like being in a relationship with your Victorian-era fiancé? I was reading her message just as Julian came out of the shower. He was wearing the robe I'd bought him, tied loosely, revealing a large expanse of his powerful chest. I looked down and typed, "It's amazing. 10/10, would recommend to everyone." The message had just sent when Julian looked over. "What are you chatting about?" Before I could stop him, he saw the nickname Victorian-era fiancé. His expression didn't change at all. But that night, he kept me up until the early hours of the morning, asking me over and over again. "Babe, was the experience good?" After we started dating, not much actually changed in our lives. We both had our jobs, so we still mostly talked online. Especially when one of us was traveling for work. Julian's company had launched a new app that he was promoting overseas, so his business trips became more frequent. One time, he left for a trip right when I got my period. The hormones made me incredibly possessive of him. I made him video call me almost every night as soon as he got to his hotel. Luckily, I'd had the foresight to secretly tuck several little outfits into his suitcase while he was packing. All things I'd ordered from various online shops. Right now, Julian was kneeling in front of the camera, the dim yellow light casting shadows that made the contours of his muscles look even deeper. "Babe, arch your back a little more." Yes, just like that. Good. Now move your hand from your neck. Down. A little lower. It was supposed to be a visual substitute, but it only made me want him more. The day my period ended, I booked a ticket that night and flew to New York. That night, the entire New York City skyline was laid out before us. On the eve of our wedding, tradition dictated that Julian and I had to separate temporarily and stay at our respective family estates. The Thorne family had a lot of rules, so there were few opportunities for Julian and me to see each other openly. The two of us had to constantly make up excuses. One day, he'd come to my house to discuss wedding details. The next, I'd go to his company to discuss a project. Sometimes, we'd have clandestine meetings in the car. We were engaged, but we were sneaking around like we were having an illicit affair, and it was thrilling. One afternoon, he came over to my house again, sitting primly in the living room and drinking tea with my dad. His dark suit was perfectly pressed, making him look the very picture of a gentleman. I secretly sent him a message. "Babe, how's my dad's pu'er tea? I have some tea up here too. Want to come have a taste?" I don't know what excuse Julian came up with, but he actually appeared in my room. He pinned me against the door. "What kind of tea? Let me have a taste." I pulled him down by his tie and kissed him, our lips meeting in a slow, sweet tangle. "Is it sweet?" Julian didn't say anything, just crushed his mouth to mine for another fierce kiss. 10 minutes later, he was back in the living room, sitting across from my dad. He was seriously discussing economic trends and investment strategies, looking like a completely different person from the man whose eyes had been filled with lust just moments before. I leaned against a cabinet and watched him. I remembered our first meeting, arranged by our families. Back then, he was untouchable, the coldness in his eyes like a frozen mountain. But now, that mountain of ice had completely melted, leaving nothing but tenderness in his gaze. Because deep inside that mountain of ice was a volcano, and it erupted only for me.